brain sluice, slick with ectoplasmic juice.
Ecstatic energy, a fire that fuels our memory.
With genealogy, with spiritual topography.
Questions for your answers, we are data necromancers.
Pipe decor.
I saw it come through this morning. I was like,
Arnar.
It's pipe decor.
It's pipe decor.
Just to let you guys in on the inside joke. No, Aaron, no, don't. Aaron uses the LEA email as sometimes as his personal one. And so we'll see the second he orders something, when it's shipped, when it's being delivered, when he got it, and how he should leave his feedback. And so he recently ordered this whole big light structure made of pipes. And so we're getting emails, and I know that Megan's getting it the second I'm getting it, so it's kind of like a fun wormhole between.
when we see it, we're both like, pipe decor.
Arnar, it's pipe decor.
Arnar, it's pipe decor. Because they have the audacity to write their company name in all caps. So whenever
that's how you know.
Whenever they send a message or an email, the first thing is pipe decor.
Pipe decor.
Anyway, this is my son, Murphy, and this is his bottom. I have his top in my other hand.
He's a fledgling.
He's still fledgling.
Where do we start?
Well, what's scooting around in your brain pond?
Okay.
What ducky is quacking?
Megan, Holy Mother Divining Rod. You
still blows your dick out of the water
because you're a fucking shaman and you don't know it, and you just need to harness the power of that feeling you get in a bookstore.
Yeah,
you need to do that with your whole. It's a power. It's a superpower. You're Super Saiyan.
Interesting idea.
Because I've just never seen somebody work like that and then just produce something that is written. I'm such a picky bitch when it comes to who's writing, because if it sucks or the cadence is off or the language, I don't even finish it.
Books that I put down because I'm like, ew, you sound like an asshole.
And there's so many books like that. And so if I would hire you, I'd pay you $50 an hour to go fetch me a book.
But what if the nature of that ability is its looseness, you know?
Right. You can harness looseness.
But what if in trying to harness the looseness, you constrict it and make it ineffectual?
There are ways around that. There's whole religions based on that. There's thousands of years worth of scripture. He's licking the wall. What's on the fucking wall, dude?
It could be little speckles of dinners. Oh yeah, there's a speckle of dinner.
Oh, he found one iota of an enchilada, and it's like game over.
I imagine Lucas sitting down to his enchiladas and just going...
Dude, I have found the best enchilada recipe, and it will give you immediate diarrhea.
Boner. Oh.
Boner, diarrhea.
Boner initially, and then it ends in diarrhea.
The boner is the lever for the diarrhea. Sorry. We are 3 minutes in. All right.
And we've already hit boner and diarrhea. Thank the Lord for Whitney Hazelmeyer.
God, yeah, sorry. It just falls out of me.
So hit me with your mother mantra.
I don't know where to start with this. And it's funny, there's a reluctancy to share it because this is so exciting to me, and I know it's probably not going to get anyone else off the way it gets me off. But it answered a big question that I've had for like 11 years. And it might not be the right answer, and it is hypothetical, and but that's what we do in the metaphysical realm. We just read stuff until it resonates and gongs your fucking...
We're seekers.
And so when you come across a big juicy, shiny nougat of diarrhea boners.
It's like you have all these criteria that you want to be met, and then you find something that meets those criteria.
And it's so succinct and just like, here's a little paragraph. Move on.
Good God,
like there's not
this is true.
There's like there's nothing else about it. Like it's not what the book's about either. It's just like so I can't wait for Megan to read this book, because this woman, I think she worked in hotels and was like traveling and then ditched it and started just talking to shamans in every religion. She like witnessed this really sacred ceremony. Not whirling, she saw the whirling dervishes, and there's a part about that in the book, but she saw some other righteous ritual that women don't ever really get to go to, but they're like, yeah, come on. You want to witness this? Like, sure. And it happens at night in the Middle East, and it's all...
Is it like Sufism?
Something like that.
Or Zoroastrianism?
And she is so holistic in going to every single continent and talking to every single religion, and that makes me so hard, because that's just like, that's the type of perspective that I enjoy.
That is like, that synthesis of all the knowledge that we've all collected it gets my boner rock hard.
Yes. And then she's like, I have an Incan example to share with you, and it was like that story about the fox and stuff.
The Mesoamerican examples get you the hardest.
Do they?
I think so. Maybe because you've been there and you've felt the powers.
Yes, and I was also reading a kid's book about the Mayan last night to Ruby, and I just always still get so shocked how I never learned any of that in school.
Right.
It's so crazy.
The history of the colonizer, I guess.
It's just so fucking fascinating. They were drinking hot chocolate all the fucking time, sounded great, and it's just like, no, you don't.
But it wasn't sweet, though. It was spicy.
So they talked about all the different kinds there were. There were like frothy ones, there were bitter ones, there were spicy ones, there were sweet ones.
A morning pate.
Yeah.
Something you do right before battle.
It's like, that facet of civilization makes so much sense to me. We just drank chocolate all the time.
Yes.
Especially when you have like really good cacao, not like Hershey's palm oil fucking duck butter. Yeah, it's like it's bitter, which is what I like.
Bitter.
Okay, so she's talking about alchemy, but she's bringing in every religion, every facet of so it's like crazy to read a different perspective, where my experience reading alchemy is Western occultism.
Yes.
So it's cool to have a different perspective. So this is just a brief part where she talks about the universe in its infiniteness, infinite, vast.
Infinitude.
Yeah. In its infinitude. And that gets my dick hard, because everything's a fractal.
We're very hard this morning.
We're very hard this morning, because we're talking about the shit that like I think you and I just kind of,
my mind always
hide and
gyroscopes back to.
And so she talks about, which I've always suspected, that, okay, let's jump into the reality where the universe was created by people fucking. By two entities coming together to fuck. And she talks that, she's like, this is the process. And so this is one of the parts of the process where they're done coming. Once again, always comes back to come. So they're done orgasming. And then it talks about where we are with that part of sexual union. Of the cosmic mom and the cosmic dad blowing their loads.
And it's not an analogy?
It is. This is an analogy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that there were two actual.
But I think it's useful to point out, like, because so many mythologies are taken at face value. And then
which
you're
is
like,
weird
wait,
to me.
But this is just sort of something that we can use, like parallel to our lives.
Well,
and
they're trying-
comparatively. You
like
know?
when I read this, I'm like, oh, I get it. They're talking about, in alchemy, you're talking about the energy or the realizations or the knowing. You're not talking about, you got a big
Adam,
fucking boner.
Eve.
Yeah, you're not talking about that.
Yeah.
We're not projecting our like humanoid
Yeah.
ape brains on, whatever.
Boom.
Okay, so the separation of the divine lovers and the divine lovers in the macrocosmos. Important repercussions ensue from the physiological process, the illusion of the separation of the divine lovers. This manifests in a macrocosmic manner by the extraction of the father from the mother's body. So he's pulling out.
But it also goes back to Adam and Eve and how, God was pulled a rib out of Adam's body to make Eve. Instead, it's God pulled out of...
And just imagine
the mother
had
body.
they fucking said he was done coming, so he pulled out. In the Bible, like how different everything would
The whole
be.
world would be upside down.
Yeah, I don't know if we'd make it this long.
We'd all be toast.
That's something we can...
Sorry, I keep interrupting.
So by the extraction of the father from the mother's body, putting an end to the cosmic orgasm, the immovable pleasure. The father then separated from the mother, and the father is taken up and set in a far sky to become a metaphysical, vouching for the values of good and bad on which civilization is founded. The mother, nature, deprived of her spirit, the father, sinks into the heaviness of materialism becoming object. The female dimension thus becomes an object of matter to be exploited, whereas the spirit lives in some faraway sky. And then it talks about the Incan mythology and like this crazy long story, but it was just like, and then she goes on to talk about the illusion of the division between thinking substance and material substance leads us to live as though our body is an object, losing the awareness of its symbolic value. And this turns us into an eco-incompatible individual. And then it talks about how sex is all the elements. So water, air, fire, and earth. Because it's like earth is the experience of softness and hardness. Swing. I just got so excited because it was just like really the cherry on the top to all the shit that we're constantly talking about.
It synthesizes everything that we care about into one thing.
Yeah. And it's like in alchemy and many religions, you talk about male energy being conscious and war driven, and mother is death and Hades and Persephone and subconscious. And there were even I forgot to bring to the table some quantum physics about mother energy, and I'll have to dig them out. I know what book they're in. Quantum energy and the feminine, which I thought was really cool because we're like, oh, it's negative and dark, but it's like in the quantum realm that doesn't
It doesn't
exist.
mean bad.
Yeah.
And it's cool to think it's like these historical or cultural associations of male energy with, control and outward achieving and like creating and whatever. And then like the female energy association with the inside realm and like immanence and inside the home and like not having to go out and sort of forge an existence because you're happy with right here where you are. It's like everybody has those. No! God, you've come so far! But I think that those conceptions of, I'm this, you're that, men are this, women are that, is like not. It deprives everybody. Because we all have those facets.
And it's a false.
Dichotomy?
Observation, in dichotomy. The ideal in alchemy embodiment is somebody who can harness both. And
somebody who can do both.
And understands. Did somebody just come through you when you said that? Because we have lost our identity and because we are so veiled by the material. well, this is real to me. I experience it. I feel it in my hand. I can alter it. So I see it this way. And we've lost the whole underbelly, the whole other half.
It also seems like in an effort to like establish something true about who we are, what we are, why we are, we sort of like minimize that experience by trying to nail it down, because it's so much more and so much more complex,
and it's hard to talk about even.
Then we'll ever really understand, because we're always trying to like collapse the wave function into a particle, but it's like our brains are too small.
Yes.
Know?
Yes.
We cannot conceive using our systems, our not prehistoric, not primal, our
primordial,
sort of ineffectual. I'm fuck it. I can't find the word.
We're getting bank foomed.
Don't fucking foom me.
I feel the Independence Day style UFO flying over my house right now.
It's so pretty.
Our systems are ineffectual. I'll just say that. I know when I watch this later, I'll be like, this is the word you wanted to say, you idiot.
Well, we're having a hard time talking about
The
how
thing I'm trying to describe is what's happening to me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like a sputtering engine. It's like, oh, I had it. Oh, it's gone. Oh, I had it.
The brain lanes, they're getting all muddy. So as you were reading that, I wrote down the duality of a world created out of divine lovers. So it's interesting that you can't really have something out of nothing. You have to like have the beginning, and like this beginning, it sets us up as like two like opposite forces. And
that's the only way you can materialize, right? Is the coming together or the separation of matter.
Does
I don't
that
know.
mean that in the beginning there was nothing and then there was something out of nothing?
That's what I don't understand. So when I originally told this to you, and we had Ruby circling us, screaming and hollering, and you were like, well, why does the cosmic orgasm have to end? Why isn't it infinite? And I'm like, well, because we die. Because we see that.
Or is it vice versa? We die because it was finite. Did that set up the conditions of our existence?
Right. And is existence inherently, you can't just have something be forever. Like there has to be.
It's like the nature of the way everything began set us on this finite sort of cyclical like
infinitude.
We'll never be able to experience everything because we're
but then you would never come
part.
Right?
We don't have cosmic orgasms, do you?
Not yet. I'm trying to figure it out.
It's backing or
dude, all those nuns and monks were like, oh,
they've been having one long 40-year orgasm.
They were talking about the reason why they go celibate is because the orgasms they have through meditation are so fucking earth-shattering.
Because it involves your whole being.
Yeah, it's not just your junk. It's like your whole fucking body. You get your like, body and your brain and you know.
It's not like scratching convulsing. An itch. It's like fucking becoming one with everything that is. Sign me up.
Yeah, okay, so there's a whole list of steps to fucking. Because you don't just, it's not like you're born fucking something.
Right. But you are born from fucking.
But you are born from fucking, which inherently sets you up for a cycle.
Yeah. It sort of instills your nature in you, I guess. But I think also that your nature is inherent in your physical construction.
Yes.
Because every single one of our cells has the blueprints for the whole thing.
All the time. And
if each one of our cells didn't have the instructions for the whole plan, I don't know, like...
I wonder if I'm like on this train because today I woke up, you know, I read this last week or whatever. I'm like, wow, the cosmic orgasm, and then the dad pulls out and then he floats away. And I wanted to know so much more, but that's not what the book is about. So it's like I want to call her up and be like, okay, so can you point me in the direction of where they go into more
Are there footnotes and stuff?
No.
That sucks.
She just kind of like, I mean, footnotes as in like resources.
Here's where I got this info. Or like a bibliography of references. Because I think that makes a book much more useful, because then it can point you in the direction of more scholarship.
I would agree, especially with how many religions she's pulling in. It's like, okay, well, I want to read more about that.
Yeah.
You know, where do I go for that? And maybe it's something I can just look up and kind of.
I mean, it's still a good place to start, like, ideologically.
It's not a very long book, you know. It's definitely not a tome by any means. But then today I read on my little pregnancy app, they're like, today your daughter's ovaries are formed, and I was like, oh, am I being imparted with like not only the motivation to like think about the thing that I've always enjoyed thinking about, but also I'm getting answers or things that I want because of the formation of her ovaries.
That's nuts. Like your divination power is doubled.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you have yours and hers now. That's pretty wild.
Or I just remember too, like being pregnant with Ruby, those fucking dreams were so, you know, I had you gave me the name of that sword. Like that, there's a
scimitar.
Yeah, she's like, you were like, oh yeah, that's a scimitar. And I was like, damn, hell yeah. And I was cutting off cobra heads, and I was covered in cobra blood, and I'm like, this is weird.
What would Freud have to say about that?
I don't know, but like, it almost felt like being a different person. Like I'd never dreamt anything remotely close to that before, but it was only during when those when your DNA is releasing the blueprints or generating it, that it was like something else was coming in and
oh god,
or being released, like, rather.
Your soul is vulnerable when your cells are dividing,
or it's like showing you. I don't know if it's vulnerability. Do you think it's vulnerability?
Well, there's got to be something to be said about like, yeah, the inherent physical vulnerability of separating. Like you can't defend yourself when you're in the middle of like reproducing.
So then why would you be shown like really crazy, powerful?
Well, maybe that vulnerability dropped your sort of prefrontal cortex CEO brain biz and let you see like deeper
the
into
grime.
Because it sort of goes against your reason. So you had to sort of, like we talked about doing drugs or whatever, so you can be a better medium. It like blocks your rational abilities and lets in more sub-rational things.
Esoteric.
Yeah, the currents, the undercurrents.
Dreamt a lot about meat hooks that pregnancy too, so this one I've been blessed.
Meat hooks.
Just have more out-of-body experiences and yeah.
That's crazy. So you're having dreams this time, but they're of a different quality? They're not as intense?
They're definitely not as violent, and like I dreamt about people on meat hooks with all their genitals sewn up, and then their mouths were sewn shut, and they were squirming like maggots, but in like, you know, you look at maggots and they're just like whatever, gyrating. Now imagine that on like a human scale.
Sick.
It was like a fucking 9 Inch Nails video or some shit.
Yeah.
But no, this one has been much more, but I don't know if maybe, are you
what
permanently
do you think
changed?
about the things that are flitting around in your unconscious? Do you, like, what is your brain's hard drive capacity? Do you think you hold on to everything that you've seen somewhere deep down?
But that stuff was like beyond. I don't watch gory stuff. Right. You know, it like I said, it did feel really beyond me.
Yeah. And maybe that's like the tapping into the collective too.
Yeah, why was it so nasty?
I don't know. I feel like I only remember having one dream that was really like that. But
I haven't had dreams like that since then. Yeah, which is great.
Thanks, Lydia. For your sanity. Something that you've done for us.
Did you see that AutoMat? Sorry, hard switch up.
What does AutoMat mean?
I don't know, but apparently it was like a big way to order food in the early...
I definitely want to go to that restaurant.
It was like a big thing in New York, and maybe, I don't know. I'm sure there's a long, deep history, and you didn't come here to learn about...
Yes, they did.
Well, what is it? Hit us with it. What is... Sorry, I'm switching up from violent dreams to dumplings. Welcome.
An AutoMat is a fast food restaurant where simple foods and drinks are served by vending machines, and there is typically no waitstaff.
Yeah, so they just opened this up in Austin, where it's just a big wall of doors, little doors that open.
That's cool.
It looks really fucking futuristic, whereas like I was hoping it was a little bit more like the ones in the early 1920s, where it's just like, I'm sure this is way easier.
Where it's like pseudo-futuristic, sort of. It's still like very old-fashioned. I think that's really interesting because there's still like a team of people behind the wall putting the food together.
I was like, I know a lot of cooks who would prefer to be behind that wall.
Absolutely. Just like putting stuff up on a conveyor belt or something. Like, yeah.
Really good. The dumplings look really good.
I want to eat that. I want to go there.
I know.
It's on 6th Street? East or west?
It's got to be east, I'm sure.
All right, let's say...
God, I went to the fucking Pecan Street Festival for Lucas's. Lucas had a show there on Sunday. Oh, it's so weird. There's a part of downtown Austin that is old as fuck. We're talking buildings built in like 1810, and they're full of, I don't know, werewolf themed bars that serve waffle fry nachos and just...
Why does it have to be a werewolf theme?
There was a werewolf themed bar. I don't know why. I don't want to know why, but it's just it's the butt crack of clubbing down there. It's just...
Oh, and yeah, 36?
Yeah, and I get it. They block off the street, so it's easier to, like... Every time I went to Dirty Six, because there was a speakeasy on that side of town, there's just people vomiting everywhere.
Getting into fights.
And I saw this homeless woman, and she was butt naked, and I was like, oh, this is the fall of Rome. Like, this
is decadence to a new degree.
Yeah, if this is what you see as fun, which is barfing your insides out, and simultaneously trying to finish the pizza, dude, and getting blackout drunk in this desecration of historic buildings, this is like,
yeah,
bummer.
It is a bummer, but I remember a time in my life when I was like, I want to get blackout drunk. Like, I don't associate with those desires anymore.
Okay, you get a pass from 17 to 20.
Yeah.
5.
I feel like there is some type of like initiation involved in going to a place like that.
Can we change that to just have it be more, I don't know. I just feel like there's better ways to not potentially get raped or shot or have dangerous diarrhea all over your body.
But it's almost like people crave that level of danger.
Yeah, maybe that's it. It's like the new Darwinian level. Like, oh, we'll see if you survive.
It's like, fuck clubbing. Existence. I'm gonna take it to the limit tonight.
Just a big Ouroboros of just vomit and poop. It was so weird. I can't go to places like that because I just want my notebook and a pen, and I'm like, oh, look at that one. Wow.
Oh, it's amazing. People watching.
Oh my gosh. And then someone's screaming at me because I'm wearing a shirt that's black, and you're like, okay.
But I also love like the performative aspect of it, because a lot of people will get dressed with going to that area in mind, and you're like, oh, this and they're on this is the outfit you chose.
They're on stilts. And then I like the aspect of the people who pay to be higher. You know, like the patio. Oh, but that's VIP. You gotta go above get thrown up on. And they're all watching everybody squirm beneath them.
Look at all the worms in the road. It's so crazy. Yeah, I've been there a couple times. Well, it's like Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Like, people go there to get shit wrecked and just forget that they have a life. for one night or a bender.
Yeah,
a
I did
7-day
that when I
bender.
was underage, and then I never wanted to do it ever again.
Yeah.
I got alcohol poisoning, and then you're done.
Yeah, you're like, this is literally the worst I've ever felt. And it was of
I
my
got close
own
to death.
making. I did this to myself.
You're not meeting anybody down there. You're not bringing anybody home.
Oh,
you're just
no.
either going to get molested or sexually assaulted, and none of the food is good.
It's a waste of time, space, and energy. So we do not endorse 36.
Now, do I want to go to what's the fucking district in Japan with that takoyaki is famous for?
Osaka?
Osaka, where it's like they're known for their bar food.
They're also known for being really funny. And like, I'm pretty
Fucking
sure
sign
this is
me
the
up.
right association. But Osaka, like people from that region are just like sort of more joyful or maybe more cynical. And like, they're just always like seeing that side of situations. I forget what show it was I watched, but it talked about a dude who had a restaurant in Osaka and like his manner and like how people would come just to see him because he was like a really funny guy who made really good food, and that's right up my alley.
Sounds like a fucking. I'm so worried if I went to Japan, I'd never come back.
Yeah,
There's
there's
a
a
little
lot
bit
of
more
things
personality.
about Japanese culture that are attractive. I'm sure they also have their demons.
Oh, without a doubt. There's a whole suicide forest in that country.
No shit. Not the suicide forest. Isn't it on Mount Fuji? Like one of the, like Mount Fujiyama.
Akogara.
Did you type in
Fuji
suicide?
Kawaguchi ko Yamanashi.
Watashi no name wa Megan desu ka?
Don't want to see. Yeah. It's the northwestern flank of Mount Fuji.
Northwest. Sun rises in the east.
It's open 24 hours. I don't know.
Huh. Well, we won't be going there.
No.
We don't wish to suicide.
I'd rather eat takoyaki and drink a gigantic beer in Osaka.
Ooh.
Doesn't that sound great?
That sounds amazing. But I do have a moral qualm with eating taco.
Ooh, I do too. They have ones that have different stuff in them.
Yeah. No, I love the idea of a little round pancake thing.
Okay, so my thing has always been animals are divine. You have to outweigh how good it tastes to how smart it is. All the other,
Yeah.
right? Octopus doesn't taste like anything. In fact, like the texture is fine, but I'm like, okay, it's outrageously smart and we're eating it for no reason. Now, if I was starving on an island, that's a different story. If I had to eat it, I would eat it and I wouldn't think about it. But like, this doesn't turn into a steak the way cow muscle fibers do, where there's some magical fucking transformation. An octopus is like, no, you're super smart and you taste like a rubber band. Like, I'm not getting what the sacrificial part of it.
Yeah, it's interesting to consider like the ways that we've eaten animals in the past, all the different ways. Because like initially, you and your people were fucking hungry, and you're like finding anything that you can eat, and then it's like, oh fuck, did you see that deer? Let's nab that. Like that was occasional, you know? Like it wasn't like a staple of your diet, and diets were like incredibly varied. So like getting meat, that was like, yeah.
Well, didn't you eat most of it in the winter?
Like you would preserve it
fresh and then preserved in the summer? Because I thought, well, here we go. When are you hunting? Like in Minnesota, there's times in the winter where you're hunting.
Yeah. And then it goes into like nomadic tribes and how they followed the food and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just fun to think about how much that has changed because of demand. We've made, like, we started animal husbandry. We're like, we're not going to follow these bitches around anymore. We're going to keep them in a pen, and we're going to put a house next to it.
Dude, I had Lucas turn to me in the car last night. He goes, what are you thinking about? I'm staring at, there's a Bob Miller barbecue. Bill Miller barbecue. And it just looks old as fuck. And he's like, what are you thinking about? And I was like, you really want to know? But it's like a relic to this food on demand thing that fucking thrived hard. Like, suddenly the housewife could not fucking cook for one night. Oh my God, thank the Lord. Like, we're Friday night, we're going to KFC. That's what's fucking happening. And then that exploded into the clown college that it became today, where there's a fucking Starbucks, McDonald's, Burger King orgy. So I love the Long John Silver's, A&W, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, because all the food is coming from one lab, and so they just crammed them all in one. It's beautiful. It's like, oh yeah,
it speaks to the level we have attained as a species. Like,
combination Taco Bell and Pizza Hut. It's like, oh, beautiful. I can get a Crunchwrap Supreme and a pizza. But it's like, that's the peak. It peaked. There, it's done.
That's it.
And now this Bill Miller's is sitting on a fucking, Saturday night completely empty.
Oh, shit.
And McDonald's are closing. The ones downtown are closing.
The boom and bust. Like, people only want it until they don't want it anymore.
The cosmic orgasm. The immovable pleasure stops and God pulls out. And then it just...
God pulls out at McDonald's.
God pulls out at McDonald's. And he's done. And then it's like a return now to food and to health and to wellness, because also, like, think of all the people who fucking died from obesity and heart problems and
still are. And it's still an epidemic.
I know. So I promised Ruby a popsicle, so we went to the gas station last night, and it's packed. It's fucking packed. They're all eating dinner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, when was the last time you had a solid log come out of your anus? Yeah. There's no way you've had a solid shit in a millennia, because I see what you're eating and it's Monday.
It hurts your belly.
This dude was buying 4 different things at a gas station. It's where they're getting their food.
I wish that we could cook for them.
Well, I wish we had gas stations like they do in Japan. Where the 7-Elevens have ramen and they've got cooks there. And you see it down here more. There's taco trucks and stuff in parking lots, so there is a little bit element of that. But I was like, no.
Some people love convenience food. Like, they'll reach for a honey bun the way that they, like, someone else would reach for an apple.
I just felt bad. I was like, yo, you need some dumplings.
Well, I think there's a large disconnect between the reality that what you put in your mouth is the material that you're giving your body to, like, continue its processes. There's like, I need to eat because I'm hungry, and then I eat some shit and I'm not hungry anymore. But if you were to realize that, like, you are made of the stuff that you eat, would you eat differently? Yes. Or is it also tied up with people's low self-esteem as a result of, like,
we could
just, like, terrible parenting, terrible national ethics or morality?
What I felt at this particular gas station was single men who were going to eat in their cars by themselves. They were alone in their dinner endeavors on a weeknight.
Does that mean they need partners, or does that mean they need to learn how to take care of themselves?
I have no idea. I was just so concerned about this guy's gut biome more so than anything else.
Damn.
for no particular reason, and just seeing people who just want to be satiated. I'm like, this isn't gonna do it in the way that you think it is. It was just like peeking at a really big problem, I think, in America in general.
Absolutely. But, like, the nature of that problem is also applicable to so many different avenues of existence. It's like you seek that temporal hit instead of trying to cultivate something that is, takes more work up front, but is
Yeah, it's like not only is it isolating, right? Which is sad. Food should be a communal experience, even if it's with the gas station attendant.
Yeah.
They should be able to sit there and eat and talk. But on top of that, it's like there are zero nutrients. You are not getting anything from that. In fact, it is probably just bringing you down.
Empty
like
calories,
significantly.
Blocking up your blood vessels.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing in religious practices too, is like no eggs. You cannot have eggs for 75 days. You need to get that vibratory essence out of your body.
Yeah. Oh, like fasting.
Yeah, and you're like,
Religious
okay, I can't have
fasting.
eggs. Or like when I fucking got my healing, she was like,
Get off the dairy, bitch.
no dairy. And I was like,
I know you was raised on the dairy, bitch, but you gotta get off.
but I believe in that because you are, you know,
What you eat?
or yeah, if you are allergic to something and you're eating it anyways, or you're gonna ignore it because it makes you happy, which is what I do with my relationship with cheese.
I ate so much cheese on Sunday. I
Cheese
just
on
kept
Sunday.
on eating
What did you have?
quesadilla after quesadilla.
Your fucking
The pickle mustard quesadilla.
pickle mustard quesadilla, man. It's so fucking good.
I also, like, I made some tomato soup by basically just, like, juicing up a can of tomato soup. But I didn't want to eat it because it was too sweet.
So the way you juiced up a can of tomato soup was like, bong, like, oh my gosh, you could season it? Because I've always hated tomato soup because it's just bland and weird. And
Hell yeah. You just, like, zhuzh it up and make it sort of like Sandra Lee semi-homemade, you know? But, so that soup was fine in its first iteration, but it was a little too sweet for me. And then I made this, like, Thai-inspired little dressing that had sambal, minced garlic, rich simple syrup, fish sauce, lime juice, and lime zest. And I dressed some cabbage and like ate a salad, but then I had some of that sauce left over and I dumped it into the soup. And I was like, what the fuck? Thai tomato soup. Let's fucking go. It was so good. Everything went so well with the tomato attitude.
you should have, it'd be hard, but it's like you should have a rubbish class. Like, where you
I would love that.
where you take your I want to learn how to make.
Yeah.
It might be a more advanced class for
Hopefully
people
some
who are,
of that comes out in the episodes because I really love making
for sure,
those.
for sure. But I think that's a valuable thing to learn, is like how to
Seeing everything's kind of versatility.
Yes. It's been a long journey for me to alter what I'm cooking, how I'm cooking, when it's happening, what I'm utilizing. You know, a lot of those Asian sauces too are so shelf stable that you could just why do you not have
Deep flavor.
Why don't you have oyster sauce, fish sauce, sambal all the time? Why don't I have frozen ginger? Like, why am I always buying fresh? Like, why don't I just have this?
You just need more practice.
More practice. But we were talking about this before the pod. Food is so fucking outrageously expensive right now that I have had to sit down and put a lot of mental energy into what I'm buying, why I'm buying it, and how it's being used. And it shaved about $120 off of my normal grocery bill, which is huge. And I got like the smoothie packets for Ruby, the reusable ones. So it's like,
oh, nice.
Because at first she would eat a half of one. So I'm not going to make 20 smoothies. And then she eats like a half of one every week. But now she crushes like 5 in one sitting. And I'm like, no, we're not doing this. No. So to utilize the stuff that's going bad, frozen stuff, making it more interesting.
That's awesome. Plus, I'm sure you could stick a straw in almost anything and she'd try it. I'd make these. I'm a bartender. I make good fucking smoothies.
Yeah, dude. They're fucking delicious. And she's like, I don't like this. And I was like, do you want the fucking pouch? Is that
she needs the pouch.
She's like, yeah, you can buy those. And I was like, yeah, you can. They actually make like a cool little contraption to like fill them up because you can put baby food and stuff in there. But I was like, we're raw dogging this. We're just gonna fucking
cool. You're growing in so many directions.
But it is funny. You have to put so much. We were talking about the sacrifice or things
Time
cost
and
time,
energy.
or they cost money, or they cost energy.
What you get from convenient food, you have to give up nutrient. You have to give up, communal feeling. Like, there's always some exchange being made. It'd be cool if you could have it all. And I think if you plan ahead, then you can have whole, delicious food that's nourishing, shared with your family. That is convenient.
My biggest fucking lesson right now is staying present in the home. Like, just staying present. When you're home, it's so easy to get distracted by the 800 million things that need to be done or whatever. But really staying present, making time for the things that need to be done and getting them done. But also that elicits the presence, elicits thoughtfulness and awareness too. Like, I had a really depressive day the other day, and I was like, man, I'm just having one of those days where I'm just fucking outrageously depressed. But it was so nice just to have that awareness.
Yeah, and like the acknowledgement of it makes it doesn't separate you from it, but it sort of gives you better perspective on it. But also I want to point out, this is testimony to people who are sexist and think that, domesticity is somehow innate to a woman. Like, you're struggling to put it all together and make it happen. Like, it's not coming, like, it is natural to an extent to, like, care for your baby, but, like, you gotta, like, this homemaking shit is hard.
Somebody in my life's partner is like, I pay the bills. What else do you want me to do? Then he's never home. And I want to be like, so you should tell him I'm only going to mom 40 hours a week. You want to fucking play that game? Then we'll fucking play that game. Yeah. I'll be a mom for 40 hours and you got to figure out the other 50.
Yeah.
Good luck. Like, fuck you. What kind of fucking... That is some, like, old...
That is so anti-partnership.
Yeah, you want to come and dump and... I don't know, hang out with your kids when you're adults, I guess, is what they want, and, like, not have to...
And also, like, comparing... When somebody works for 40 hours, the other 50 hours or so, they're just chilling or sleeping. Like, the mother doesn't get to do that. She barely gets to sleep. She barely gets to chill.
No, and it's so crazy now that I talk to more moms, how many of them are not getting what they need. The dad's at work and the dad doesn't help and they don't know, mom sleeps in, can I call you? I don't know, this just happened. It's like, what? Have you lost your instinctual fatherhood, or it's just strange. What a bummer. What a fucking bummer. Hard time to find somebody to procreate with who's to be like, I got this. Go sleep. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We're going to go. Like... It
seems very rare.
Yeah, I follow this African culture Instagram, and there was this woman going off about how it doesn't take a village. How it's like, you better pick a fucking man who... helps.
Someone who wants to be there.
And who takes, and she was just like kind of going off about that. And I was like, damn, that's one perspective.
And more broadly, like, someone who will take responsibility, that's just as hard to find, even outside of the realm of rearing children. Somebody who will take responsibility for what they do, who they are, and how they act, and how they impact the world and other people. Like, that's...
Yeah, Full Metal says, I'll be real, fathership is a learned thing, not instinctual. It's work. Motherhood was not instinctual for me.
Right.
Like, at all. Like, I found out I was really operating from a place of wanting to be everything my mom wasn't. Mm-hmm. Which is good to a degree, but it's still out of balance.
Right, yeah.
So, but it's like, I have a therapist and I talk about, okay, how do I operate from not just that point, and how do I be more patient, and what is making me,
It's almost like striving to be someone's opposite is the same as, like, the foolhardy task of, like, following in your father's footsteps or whatever. Like, I want to be just like him is just as bad as, like, I want to be the opposite of her. you know.
I think there's so much unlearning happening too from the generational trauma. Like no spanking, no hitting, no. I remember
no
all
emotional abuse.
No emotional abuse or manipulation.
Manipulation is huge because people who do it don't always know that they do it.
Yeah, or effectively communicating, and how when somebody thinks it's an attack, that it's not, you're not doing anything wrong. They just think that they're being attacked. There's so much nuanced and so much to.
And when you can acknowledge what projection is, and when you can like be aware of all the like subcurrents that are controlling your interaction with people, it's like, oh God, there's so much more at work here than just what we're saying. It's crazy. It's kind of debilitating and scary.
It is, because it's like, well, what do I do?
How do I directly communicate with someone who's so averse to direct communication?
You can't. I mean, you can do the best that you can, and that's it.
It's almost like you have to speak to those people in riddles, give them something to chew on.
I have just learned that I'll say it back and see if I'm going to be received with an intensity, and see if I can dial it back but still get the message across. I'm not sugarcoating, because sugarcoating or avoiding conflict is what has made these people in my life boss level fucking demigorgs. And if you're not spoon feeding them the things that they demand from you, you know, and all hell breaks loose, you got to stop it.
Yeah. It's almost like you have to translate it into their language without sinking to their level.
Yes.
Because, you know, you would just perpetuate the issue if you kept on giving it to them exactly how they wanted it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's possible to, like, break their spell.
No. Then you should never have expectations of breaking a spell.
Right.
Because it's so crazy how many years you can do that and nothing changes. Except for your boundaries and your mental health.
Your own protection and restoration and proliferation of self.
That was some of the biggest home runs in therapy, was like, well, why don't you say this back? Oh, I can't say that. You know what will happen? And she's like, why do you feel so defenseless? And I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. I pay you the big bucks.
Yeah.
She's like, you know, and then we did visualizations of the me communicating, afraid of the reaction. Didn't have armor or weapons or anything. And I was like, that sucks. What a stupid way to communicate. You should go into these people who like to battle with the things that protect you.
With your fucking armor on.
With your fucking armor on. Which is not easy. It's easier said than done. It takes a lot of work and awareness and knowledge and pursuit. But when you do make that realization that you are not helpless amongst these seemingly biblical level demons, I guess that wasn't so hard. You get the phone hung up a lot on you.
Oh, I've been there, doggy. You just gotta speak your truth.
But it's, you're like, in 3, 2, bye. You know, like you kind of get used to it. And it was funny doing that with my mom versus doing that with my dad. Like, my dad had a baby, no more sugarcoating. It's gone. That part of my brain went home. They're doing other things now. Mm-hmm. My dad would get really defensive and then do this weird thing. You don't love me. And I'm like, okay, I'll talk to you later. Like, I'm not even going to answer that. That's like, you're being weird.
The victim.
But then he'd come around and he would be held accountable. I'm like, oh man, you just repaired that bridge. Mm-hmm. That's all I ask, is that you just, accountability. I don't know. I was a thoughtless asshole. He said that. And I was like, wow, if my mom could do that, bridge repaired.
Yeah.
Done. It's sure. There. Accountability. Man, I'm being a parent with that awareness, mm-hmm. right? You can tell me, you fucked me up. Okay. So I'm sorry. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was doing.
I had no idea.
It was hard, and I was sad and alone, and I didn't know what to do, and you got the brunt of it.
As a mom, and you talk to other moms, you get like how you parent thrown into your face a little bit. And I've learned, I'm like, this isn't about me necessarily. These are not personal attacks. These are strange projections of other people. But one particular set of advice handed to me, I was like, okay, you're assuming I've slept, I've been fed, I have been washed, I have been hugged properly, and all of my needs were met before I could meet my child there. That's unrealistic. I'd love to be a saint. That'd be great. And I can get there some days, but other days I can't. So you also have to like have awareness about that.
It's like people hold you to a standard that's unrealistic.
I think it's a symptom of the unwinding of all the trauma, the generational trauma we're doing right now. So they're like, okay, well, you can't do this, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. And you're like, please.
I'm going to get it done.
Don't worry about it. Stay in your lane.
I feel like that's one of the biggest lessons of growing up, though, and taking a more mature view of the world and everything and everybody in it. It's not about me.
It's not about
It's not all about me. Of course, some things are all about me, my shit, but when it comes to like my interactions with other people, so many varieties, so many different flavors of interactions. Because most of my life I went through assuming that I had done something wrong to deserve whatever was coming. And I always thought that it was within me that needed to change in order for these interactions to improve. And that was such a detrimental sort of outlook. And then finally just realizing like everybody's got their own shit that they're wading through, that they're sort of sifting through to eke out their daily existence. And it don't got shit to do with me.
It's funny developing my senses, my sixth senses. I can physically feel now when somebody is like, oh, I wonder if Whitney's mad at me. Like, and I'm like, I'm not going to turn to you and tell you that I'm getting this ping of information because it's going to unearth so much stuff in that person.
Yeah. Do you in that situation seek to comfort them? Because in my mind, if I felt like somebody was feeling unconfident or sort of low, I would just like wink at them and not like give anything more than that.
I think it's appropriate to be like, oh man, I'm not on my A game right now. Like, I'm sorry. But I didn't have the fortitude in that particular situation to like quell them because there were a lot of kids around
and you were like, grow up.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't about me. And then leave. Which is a great mantra. I feel like I got slapped with that mantra twice. Ram Dass.
This isn't about me.
Ram Dass was saying it, and then Duncan said it in one of his most recent podcasts, like, oh, this isn't about me. And that was such an important mantra to have, like,
yeah, absolutely.
take yourself out of it.
It's life-changing.
It is life-changing.
It lets you relax. It's similar to like the view that we are tiny specks on a tiny speck.
We're
in
sea
a
monkeys.
swirling speck, galaxy of specks.
Yes.
Being able to kind of zoom out and take stock of like what's actually going on, that is usually something that can reorient my approach to reality in that same way, because it's like a paraphrase of It's Not All About You. It's like it's about everything, and there's so much that belongs inside of everything we can't even conceive.
The next mantra that this book talks about is how reality doesn't exist and how you need to keep reminding yourself of that. It's all a dream. And another cool part, so there's like different tiers for the mother mantra, which is to escape non-duality. So the first one is, this is all a dream, this is not real, right? So it lets go of your grippiness to the reality that you're experiencing. But the next one is super cool. And totally, I've never heard of this before.
You said escape non-duality?
Yes. To reach non-duality.
Oh, okay.
To escape duality.
Got it.
So the function of their mother mantra is to allow the initiated to reabsorb reality and reunite the divine lovers, awakening from the hypnotic sleep of materialism and victimization. With this aim, the mother mantra tradition is made up of 4 movements. The first movement is understanding the dream state. The second movement is taking the spirits with oneself. This one was really fucking cool. So it talks about looking at pictures of your ancestors and you repeat the mantra, come with me.
Oh.
And it says not to judge your ancestors.
That seems useful. Because it's like they lived in completely different worlds.
This is a shamanic method practiced by the shamans in Siberia and Mongolia. They understand that a person will lead a hard life until learning to take the spirits with oneself. The spirits are the most powerful expressions of a person's soul and are so-called power images. Power images are ancestors, places charged with natural force, highly emotional events, or meaningful dreams. And it kind of breaks down each one, but it's like you approach it, or even animals you've connected with, and you're talking to their spirit, come with me. So you're kind of like gathering the quantum energy that all these things hold, and you're like, to me, just shoving them in your fucking soul's butthole.
I love that, because it's like, yeah, we can lament the disintegration of the nuclear family and like the extended family, but you know, in the same breath, we can like gather all the little soul
and there's that
orphans
fractal
up.
again, right? It's like there's that union, separation, and I have felt that. And you see like how monstrous World War II was, and just fucking, you left plots of familial land. A lot of people had, I didn't know this, I think we mentioned this maybe in a podcast, what are those called? Family compounds. It's like all of your family lived within each other. You all took care of each other. And then World War II, it's like people were getting money from the government and bonds, and they were back. And so they moved and then created suburbs, which shattered. But that's the fractal. That's the cycle.
Yeah.
The separation. And so, yeah, to bring it all back, and for like me to leave the Midwest and never fucking shed a tear.
Yeah. But
that doesn't mean that I don't want to bring where I come from behind.
Definitely. I also think that the decimation of families caused by the war was like compounded by the industrialization of farming.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there.
There's so much that just sort of obliterated any kind of like communal family extended sort of nourishing environment.
Well, and how much industrial farming came out of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl,
and like subsidies that the government
and
handed out.
Devastating instances where there wasn't food for everybody and people were dying. So they're like, okay, let's fix this problem, and then it just becomes where we build our entire city.
It's like way too fixed.
Yeah, and why E. coli is rampant, and the lettuce fields being next to the feedlot fields, and it's like, well, it's been this way for 70 years. You want me to just pack up 300,000 steer? And you're like, yeah.
Yes. Change it, make it better.
It's just, but these systems have to crumble, and they have to die, and they have to be held accountable in order to like move things around and go back to, I prioritize buying local meat only,
That is a good priority to have. I was thinking about, because I'm reading that philosophy book, I'm almost done with it. And one of the philosophers, I think Hegelian philosophy, sort of posited that there's like a historicity to reality as we experience it, because we just talked about how reality doesn't exist. It's a shared delusion where everybody has sort of a different perspective depending on their genetic makeup,
their projections,
their everything that makes them who they are is what determines their reality.
Right.
So Hegel sort of posited that all philosophy is right in its own context. Like you can't sort of analyze right or wrong outside of the context that history provides. And so throughout time, you can see someone positing a thesis about how they think reality goes. But then that stirs up somebody to say, I think it's exactly the opposite. And then the antithesis comes. So taking the thesis, all the best parts of the thesis and all the best parts of the antithesis, you create this new synthesis that gets you closer to the truth, but you still have to take into consideration the context in which those things are true. So I think as we move forward in time, people keep being born, people keep dying, things keep happening on a global scale, on a local scale, all the ripples of reality. Truth is always going to be just outside of our grasp. And so I feel like we are philosophers, and we are ponderers and seekers, and I don't think we'll ever be done.
No. What is done?
You know? And why would you want to be?
What is finite? I don't know.
Right? We want that infinitude, that big juicy infinitude.
I want to die not knowing.
Let's go.
I want to get old. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to get old as fuck.
I'm trying to get old.
I'm looking in the mirror and I'm
to age.
admiring my wrinkles. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I catch my like face hairs in the sun. I'm like, oh shit, you need to shave, girl.
We're all the same age for the exact amount of time.
Yeah, and some people think
unless
they
you're
know
a lizard
better.
person.
Like one 34-year-old to another 34-year-old. Like, here's how you can be 34 better. It's like, bitch, we've been 34 the same amount of time. What gives you the audacity?
Also, 34 to me, it's like, man, I'm excited for my 40s because I feel like I'm just now figuring it out. And I won't be done for another 6 years. And then it'll be righteous. And then what does that mean for your 50s? That, like, you know, it's
so
like
exciting.
20s sucked, teens sucked, so much figuring out. You know, there's so much.
It's like bumping around in the dark.
Oh, God. Yeah, I don't.
And we've only just started to let in a little bit of light.
Yeah, and I feel like that has to do also with the development of your brain. Like, it really doesn't finish until your mid-20s. So you're really
it's been
not.
A fucking whirlwind, yeah.
On that note, I want to go, my bladder's going to fucking explode.
Lydia's kicking and pressing on you.
God. I'm so ready for this baby to get here.
Don't rush her now.
Just
She's got to finish
out.
cooking.
Just
Let her
come
finish
out.
cooking.
Just be a little babe.
Te quiero mucho, baby.
There's cool stuff out here. There's cake.
Dude, she's happy in there.
Toys. Oh,
She doesn't have to do anything. She can just chill.
Jake was like, he's like, when are you gonna have a baby? And I was like, November 6th at 7 a.m. That's so weird to know, like, the date and time that's happening.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, that's the day after our wedding. I was like, I know, we're gonna fucking rage. Jake gets married the night before. And then, yeah, I gotta wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the hospital. Have a baby. It seems like a perfect lineup of, it's no coincidence.
Wow.
Because had it been the day of, I couldn't have gone.
Right. Is that a Monday or?
So he must be getting married on a Sunday.
That's kind of unusual.
Right? I was so excited when I was like,
oh, is he
save the
doing
date.
like a V for Vendetta style wedding?
What is that?
Remember the 5th of November? The gunpowder treason and plot?
I wouldn't put it past him. Wouldn't put it past him.
I know of no reason the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
And on that note,
Suck it! I mean, go away with love.
Ciao.
Ciao!
I wish I could see who's fucking left on here, but goodbye everybody. Thanks for hanging out.
Goodbye.
Thanks for being a part of the community.
The perpetual unfolding.
During this busy time in my life, because it's like shit's popping off.
She's always busy.
But don't worry. There are good things looming.
Always.
Looming. Ooh, real quick. At the Pioneer Farms place where I went on Sunday, they talk about all the things 3 and 4-year-olds had to do. Like you had to sit at the loom, you had to change the yarn, you had to go pick the cotton, you had to pick the seeds out of the cotton, you had to go get water. They showed like all the tools, and I was like, Ruby is made for that.
Yes, hell yes.
Where is
she
the
needs
nearest?
A job.
Where is the nearest cotton field?
She's
I
like
will
a
send her.
Dog.
God damn it!
We need some factories for our kids to work in. We need to put soot all over their faces.
I like the idea of her picking stuff and putting it in a bucket. It's like, that's the perfect job.
Yeah.